Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka Podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a minisode of Baka. Now, normally we are a podcast that watches an anime across 2 weeks. We come together on the podcast, we talk about it, we spoil everything, and we turn the discussion over to you guys. Every other week, we do a minisode where we talk about any random topic we can think of. Sometimes we play games. Sometimes we go into deep, meaningful, what is the word art? You know, you never know what comes out of us. But this week, due to popular demand and also our own demand of really liking the anime, we decided to all watch season 3 of Overlord. Independently, not part of the main podcast show, but we have all seen it now. And we wanted to come together in this minisode to give our thoughts on it, our review on it. We are going to have a non-spoiler section, then we will have a spoiler section later. But when I mentioned that our fans turn up in the comment section to carry on the discussion for our normal stuff, Overlord is one of the greatest examples of that. We had so much extra info come in, help us to understand it better. It was great. To talk about it, I must bring in my co-host. So first off, we have the Lord to my Momonga, Jeremy.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. So I've been kind of splitting my time among watching a whole lot of extra anime and then listening to some really fun game stuff, like essentially documentaries. There's a channel I found on YouTube called Indigo, and the guy does a really good job. Sometimes he's got interviews with like Julian LaFay, the father, quote unquote, of the Elder Scrolls, from like the Arena and Daggerfall days, and a few others as well. Apparently, like there's this game called Dark Earth that is an old RPG game from France that I really want to play now. It's really cool. It sounds really interesting. But yeah, that's my work audio now. It's been absolutely great.
Yes.
All right. Our other host, he is the dark to my young, the horrible CGI goat creatures from Overlord Season 3. Jason, how are you, man?
I'm doing all right. I've been we've recently finished a book on philosophy, which has been a great source of really existential, like really in depth and like just hashing it out about something that in the end is just meaningless.
Yeah, that's like the definition of philosophy, right?
It's like we put so much work and effort into just crafting our thoughts and our intentions and what this really means. Sometimes we get down the nitty gritty of what does this one word, like define it in the most extreme detail you can. And at the end of it, we're just like, and that was all meaningless. Let's get back to playing video games.
That's right.
And I love it. I've been a big philosophy nerd for a really long time. And Troy said that he wanted to get into one of the books. And so Jeremy got on board as well. And it's been a blast.
It's a good book.
My New Year resolution, learn basic philosophy.
Yeah.
So you got a head start then.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I got excited. I couldn't help myself.
I'm currently my project is to really get a full understanding and be able to explain it on a whim of what inductive and deductive reasoning and what their pros and cons are. So.
Yeah, in college there's a contemporary math class that you have to take to get your associates, and it actually goes into deduction and induction and all of that. And I kind of was watching over Tanya's shoulder as she was going through it, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to remember this. and I don't remember, but I'm going to have to take it myself. So maybe I'll find there's a trick or something. If you do it with math, it makes it easier to remember.
Nice.
And my name is Troy, and I have a question for anyone who's listening who might have an answer. Can someone explain to me Gintama? I understand it. It is a parody of shonen. It's a shonen parody, and it had some funny moments. And anytime I've seen clips where they're like referencing other animes, it's very funny. But I sat down to watch it, and I just don't feel like I got it, or I got what was so great about it, because the fans of it are huge fans of it.
All the clips I see are amazing, but yeah, I have no idea what the show's about.
At one point, he's reading Shonen Jump, and he goes, "Man, I wish I had a Bankai," and I'm like, "That's funny." What is that? I don't get the rest of the show.
So, yeah, one of my brother-in-laws really likes it and recommended it to me, and I tried to watch the first season, and I just didn't get it. Maybe I didn't have enough anime under my belt at the time. I don't know.
And the first episode is like an hour-long special in the middle of the story, and they even call that out, like, hey, "This was a horrible place to start. We're gonna go back." I just want to know what I'm not getting, because I would like to watch it if it is as good as everyone says it is, but when I tried to watch it, it didn't click. And so, help me out with Gintama if you're a Gintama fan. I'm honestly wondering what's going on here. With that said, we are here to talk about Overlord, the third season. We're not going to do it in a regular podcast. I know some people were hoping we would, but I have this weird rule that no one likes but me, that we can't rewatch an anime more than 2 podcast episodes. That's just so we don't get caught in a loop of repeating the same 5 anime over and over. And I've been a big stickler on it. So, but minisodes, they don't have rules. So here we are. Overlord Season 3. We are in a non-spoiler section. So I think we should each talk about our general thoughts, our reviews, anything we want to throw out that would maybe entice someone to watch this or steer them away, depending on our thoughts. And Jeremy, you watched it most recently, so how about we start with you?
Sure. I liked it. Ainz certainly takes an interesting, decisive turn in his character growth. At least in the anime, it certainly is very clear that he's not really straddling the fence anymore. He's kind of gone full bad guy. And at least for me, it seemed like he was straddling the fence. But a lot of interesting character development happens elsewhere. Some of the CGI really sucks in the end.
They definitely lost some budget on this season.
Yeah, but overall, I think I liked it as much as the other ones, but just barely.
Okay.
I really I liked it just as much as the other seasons. In fact, I'd probably go season 1, season 3, season 2. This anime is not afraid to just keep introducing new characters. It's just and also it's not afraid to just leave them off and let us assume they're just kind of living their life or doing their adventure or whatever,
or dying.
And I think that's one thing I'm appreciating about the writing of this is it doesn't hold your hand in some of the storytelling, but it also doesn't do it in a way where you're like, oh, that's a plot hole. Like it does it in a very intelligent way.
I think there's multiple times I've been like, I don't fully understand this, and then like an episode later, I'm like, okay, I do got it. But it didn't like hold my hand and explain it to me. I just like, okay, I need to make sure I pay attention to what's going on here and figure this out. And I was able to, but it was definitely not spoon-fed to me for sure.
Right. And I think his relationship with his NPCs is getting way more complicated. And I think I'm really digging that part of the anime, especially with the direction he went. And how is he, like, I'm super jazzed for a season 4 because I want to see what happens between that. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Definitely a anti-hero shonen, I guess is the best way to put it.
I don't even know if I could call it anti-hero at this point.
No.
Not anti-villain now.
No. Not anti-hero. Anti-hero anime, like the opposite of a hero anime.
Gotcha.
This is straight up like dungeon keeper anime.
Yeah.
So when we first started Overlord, I was not its biggest fan because mostly my big issues were with the main character and how the anime presented him. And I do still sometimes have that issue, but because of the turn he makes here, because He's definitely going into the more of a darker area. That goes in line with how I was seeing him from the start. So, and then it just makes me feel like, okay, he's just this force of nature, and all these other characters are surviving him. And it feels very Games of Thronesy, where he's like the Ice Walkers. They're not evil; they're just kind of doing what they do. This is their thing, and all these other characters are stabbing each other in the back, and no idea what's coming for them. But also, they need to survive it. And I'm super into it now. And if I had to rank the seasons, it'd be 3, 2, 1. I got more into this season than I have before. The world building is on par with Game of Thrones. I feel like I
100% agree with that.
And I would tell anyone this is the Game of Thrones anime. And I'm super jazzed for where this goes. It's the same thing I thought when I was watching early seasons of Game of Thrones. Like, where could this go? How does this end? Who could possibly stand on the throne that's a satisfying ending? What does Ainz do? Does he go home after everything that's happened? Does he just take over the world? Do we just get this bleak ending? What is the end game of this show? And I'm super interested in where it's going.
So that's actually a really interesting idea, because I've heard that Stephen King, one of the criticisms leveled against him frequently is that he's so good at creating scenarios that he can't finish. Right. And you can't find a satisfying conclusion. And George R.R. Martin has been asked the same question about Game of Thrones. Like, how's it going to end? He's like, I don't know. Like, I don't really see it ending. And, and so I don't know how, like you say, they could end this really interestingly, but I can't think of any really good stories where they go down this direction where you're like, wow, this is so crazy. The problem solving that would be required in order to fix this they'd have to be so good. And I don't know if the author's going to do that. But
it'd be amazing if he's run through with a magical sword. He's about to die, and then all of a sudden it cuts to this guy in a room, and he just takes off this VR headset. He's like, that was crazy. No credits.
I think they would outrage.
I actually agree with you, Jeremy, and that it's very true for Stephen King. As someone who's read most of the stories, he can set up imaginary worlds like you can't believe, but when it comes to ending them, they just kind of turn into gibberish. Yeah. And I think a lot of story writers are, it's the journey, not the destination. I think that's a mantra of a lot of storytelling, but you still have to bring it to an end somehow. And when you tell a story that's so grandiose like this, I just, how do you even start bending it towards an ending?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
With Game of Thrones, they decided to have an aunt and an uncle, or an uncle and a nephew bang each other.
At least for the TV series.
Aunt and a nephew bang each other. Yeah. So we'll see,
Fits in the context of the series, so.
So I think we'd all recommend it. If you were telling someone who had watched the previous 2 seasons, what would you say to make them want to turn on season 3?
There's more political intrigue, I think. That's probably the thing that I like the most about it, and what I think I would recommend it for. Is you actually get to see more kingdoms interacting with Ainz, more human kingdoms.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. Are you interested to see where Ainz is going and what his ambitions entail? Because he comes out of hiding, and that creates its whole new set of problems. And so that would definitely be something I'd probably say.
I would say Best Boy Climb is back. Y'all know that's what you're here for. My shiny boy.
Poor little Climb. He barely gets any scenes.
He does. He doesn't get a lot. But he is around, and he has survived 2 seasons of Overlord, and that's better than a lot of other people are doing.
To the chagrin of the princess.
Don't come for the CGI, that's for sure. I would say, if you were wondering if that village was important, that village is going to become very important, and I absolutely love what they do with that village. We'll talk about that some more here in a second. I think from there we will go to our spoiler section. So if you haven't seen Overlord season 3, we're not doing story recap at all. We're just going to be throwing out random thoughts about the 3 story arcs and then bringing this all to a close. So it's on you now. So spoiler warning given, guys. First story arc. It's the village. The girl who summoned goblins. The boy who makes potions. The goblins ship him.
Even though they're all going after her.
Thoughts on this story arc? What do you guys think?
I really think it's conflicting. It's weird to root for them. At the same time, know that they're for Ainz, and that they don't know that they're in this tiny experiment that's going to end up being way more than they're prepared for. But yeah, it's extremely intriguing to see how it's playing out, and I almost feel like a monster to say that, because I almost feel like I'm in Ainz's position of, oh, I'm okay with them being in this really, really dangerous situation that they don't know is super dangerous, and letting it play out, and then watching it, right?
Yeah, I also thought it was really important to see how power and authority kind of naturally moves toward those who assert themselves and who wind up making decisions. And the more power you exert, the more power you get, the more authority that you get to go with it, and how Henry winds up becoming the chief, basically, of this village, which was never, ever an aspiration of hers. And that's pretty cool.
So, I don't know if it was ever spelled out, but I'll get your guys' opinion. Were they faking it when they were arm wrestling Emery? Or is she just strong? Okay.
No, yeah, you could see the goblin afterwards. He's like facing the camera, chuckling a little bit as they're like, oh my God, look how strong she was.
I'll be honest, when I first saw that we're back at the village after everything that happened in season 2, I was like, why would we come back here? What does this matter? Where's my boy Climb? We had a psycho princess. There's so much more important stuff going on, right? And I was wrong. This village is super important, and this storyline was super intriguing, especially as it got going. It wasn't. I think it's probably my least favorite of the 3 arcs, but it was very compelling by the end.
Yeah. What happens with Emery and how she handles being the chief was just sucked me in. Like I was in your boat, Troy. I was like, okay, what's happening with Nazarick? How are we interacting with the world? What's Ainz do? Wait, Emery's got to go out into the woods. Oh, there's a goblin that came out of the woods. Oh, what are they gonna do?
What is that goblin?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people complain in this season. They're like, like Jeremy said, Ainz. This is where he becomes evil in this season. And a lot of people talk about the second story arc for that. I thought the most evil thing Ainz did was in this story arc, because he literally attacks his own village of innocent bystanders just as an experiment for one of his NPC maids.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And there are literally women and children there would die, and everyone else was at least a combatant that he murders helplessly in the rest of this anime. But this is literally, hey guys, I'm totally going to protect you. Okay, now you go kill them. And so when people are like, man, story arc 2 is really evil, I'm like, did you not see him just try to murder his own village just cuz?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this whole thing with Ainz, I'm like, I thought Ainz was, at least going to protect what he's claimed.
Well, do you remember, Jeremy, you and I, like, trying to justify and fight for, over a week with Troy at how Ainz was really this good guy just in a bad guy disguise.
It was strategy.
His strategy was to do these evil things so he could do greater good. We were wrong.
Yeah, well, and essentially, like, the only way you could still justify that is to zoom out in scope and say the only way he could be good is if he intends to have world domination and then implement good, but there's no way he's going to just flip over and become good once he gets world domination achieved.
That's a Doctor Doom good. by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. Was this area?
Let's also not forget at the start of this anime, in the beginning of season 3, he realizes he's starting world domination. Did not know it.
Well,
yeah.
Demiurge kind of forced
Demiurge
it
is
on him.
like, God. Well, okay, so this all came from that first night when they went out and flew up to the moon.
Floating around.
He's like, I gotta spread myself across the world, right, to find my friends. Is what he was saying. Demiurge heard that, was like, oh, we're taking over the world, and that's what Demiurge has been working on this whole time. So now, season 3, 2 seasons later, Ainz hears, "Hey, everybody, we're taking over the world." And he's like, "We're doing the what now?"
Yep.
Okay, so again, that I still have a little bit of issues with and I from what I've heard about the light novel, it's not there. But the Ainz in the anime, because when we see his inner thoughts, it's the funny game player, like, oh my god, we're taking over the world, that's weird. And then we only see the Overlord. Okay, let's kill this village. Let's just see what happens. That should be great.
Yep. Whereas the manga says something totally different. What did you find?
Well, what I had read was about the second story arc. But it was like, he has to play certain roles for his NPCs so they don't figure out that he's not evil. His emotions are being torn away from him due to the body he's inhabiting, and the one emotion he's still connected to is that find my friends, find my friends, find my friends. And he's so busy trying to sell his NPCs that, like, everything I'm doing is for the good of Nazarick and for the good of us, that even when it's not, he's starting to believe his own hype. Like, this is for the good of Nazarick, right? So it's okay. And even that, if that wasn't his original thought process, it is now, because, and I see now Ainz as a man trapped inside of a monster, which I like much better than a man pretending to be a monster and doing monstrous things.
And also, we see the green light a lot less than this season, but we do see it, and it still is not explained. I go, why? Like, I have a couple of theories on it, but like nothing concrete.
Yep. This is this first arc also covers when they come to visit him, right? He calls for Enri and Nafti.
Yeah.
Or Nafi or whatever. And I thought this was interesting because it gave a little bit of a glimpse that there might still be some good, even from the anime perspective.
He got really excited about the little girl. She was nice. She was laughing. He was being super kind to her.
And then just from that one interaction, he orders his maid, protect her too. Whereas he's willing to sacrifice everybody else. Maybe if he got a little bit of time with people, just like he did with that first adventurers group in season 1, if he got a little bit of time with people, he would probably decide that it wouldn't be good to kill them. But it's like he's keeping enough distance away, that stranger factor, so that it's easier for him to be like, I don't care about them. I don't know.
Honestly, even since season 1, we've seen him do random acts of kindness, like when he gave the red potion. He claimed now, he's like, oh, I totally did that for a reason, but it wasn't. It was, oh, I messed up your thing. I'm so sorry. Here's a red potion. He does random acts of kindness throughout the whole show, but as a overall theme, there is no kindness to be found, and almost no, I lost it.
Humanity.
Empathy.
That particular kindness ends up getting twisted, and see, it's part of his master plan to manipulate. You were so brilliant, Momonga.
For me, it wasn't until the third arc that I absolutely hated him. Like, I hated him for the first, I hated him for the second, but in the third arc, I'm just like, oh god, you're irredeemable. I hate you.
When we get to the third arc, tell me what it was. So second arc, this is the Tomb Raiders, basically. All these guys get hired to go raid the Tomb of Nazarick, thinking it's just a big empty. They're going dungeon diving, right?
Which they're hired by Ainz.
Yeah.
This reminded me a lot of Dungeon Keeper, like the video game, just because it was the view from the other side. You had invaders coming into your dungeon. I think it would be different if they were hired by someone else, or they were just like, we're going to invade this place for treasure. No, Ainz was like, yeah, go in there for money. Oh, you're going in there for money? Yeah, you're dead.
I really thought they were hired by one of the nobles, because there was a noble who arranged it, and also his head was cut off and brought. I thought that Ainz was just one of the adventurers that was there to be the adamantine adventurers.
The old
that was
man wizard
protecting
is
them.
pulling strings.
Oh, he did it through the old man wizard.
Yeah. Who convinced a Baron to convince?
That makes sense.
Yeah. But the being raided was part of Demiurge's plan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I knew that. I just didn't. I thought it would just as simply as like he would expose it knowing their actions, but I didn't realize he would actually expose it and then make them act.
Yeah. Now I do think he came up with a justification here because he asked the entire party.
Yeah, he did.
He's like, "Hey, you're doing this for money, right?" And one guy goes, "Yep." He's like, "All right." But we, the viewer, know that there is a character there whose parents are like the worst and like needs this money to survive, and it's their last chance to save her sisters, and that there is a very human side to some of these characters, and some are horrible human beings for sure, but some of them are not.
But also, I don't know. I felt this very weak reasoning by Ainz because it's like these adventurers are just that. They go adventuring for money. This is their livelihood. They're not here for greed. They're here because it's their job. And I found this entire arc was just super evil.
Yeah, if you think about it, even the fact that he comes in as Momo the warrior or Momon the warrior, the whole reason he started that,
Momon,
the whole reason he started that was so that he would have currency that was recognized, and he wouldn't have to use the money from the Tomb of Nazareth and be outed as from somewhere else. So, like, having money was important enough for him to become an adventurer. So, of course, what do you think adventurers and workers are going to do? Same thing you did. This was pure fallacy and justification on his part. And if he genuinely got himself to believe it, which in Arc 2, it seemed like he genuinely believed it because he had fury over it. And you don't have fury over something you don't believe.
Yeah, even when they're deep inside and he's like, I'm going to face you guys 1v1 or 4v1. And he's like, you came in here looking for my treasure. It's like, you sent them in there for a job.
Exactly.
Did he get mad before or after the guy lied to him?
He got mad after, but he wasn't mad just because of the lie. He was mad over...
But the lie was really important.
Right.
Because the guy because Ainz took it as, one of my friends.
But Ainz also knew. I mean, he even comes out and says, clearly you're desperate and you don't want to die, so you're lying.
Well, remember the one thing that Ainz cares about, and this guy touched it.
It's such bull. It's such bull. He's such a hypocrite. That's he's
definitely a hypocrite. Also, I do have to. I need to praise the anime though for making me care about so many of these adventurers. So the guy who does the fake accent and then he gets into the private area with his friends. Yeah, he's like, oh man, it is hard to do that accent around these guys. I'm gonna tell you guys. I love that guy.
And then making me, in that short amount of time, then making me care about his death scene. It's like, and then he gets eaten by bugs. That was
and revived brutal. And eaten by bugs and revived.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, we find out just how evil Nazarick is in this arc.
Which is a little odd, because weren't most of the characters hero characters? I know the whole thing is you couldn't be human, and you could be good or evil, but I thought most of the characters were heroic, and there's just some sick stuff down there.
I don't know if most of them are. I know that with 41 members, we've encountered like 3 or 4 that were good in the story.
And also, we don't know, there's a lot of written backstory, but none of it's played out in an RPG. But as soon as these NPCs are given life and have to go on that backstory,
it's true too.
You could even have like a heroic character and been like, dude, guys, I got bored one weekend, wrote up a backstory for a rapey tentacle monster that likes guys. Isn't that hilarious? And now it's alive in the basement and
look what you did.
Your fun weekend of trolling is someone else's nightmare.
It's their kidney stones.
Oh gosh.
So my favorite and also most frustrating moment in this whole thing was Hamsky's fight, because it's like this guy gets a clean, fast death, but was really awesome to see the slaves that he had been abusing not only A, stop helping him and just start laughing at him, but then B, just sickly and like maniacally laughing as they kick his dead corpse.
His headless, handless corpse. And I love that Hamsuke is like, that's weird. Is that how elves commemorate their dead? Is that an elven burial tradition? Is that how they honor them?
I did like the lizards coming back and the collars they're wearing, which are they like lower your health but raise your XP, the kind of stuff you would wear like in Final Fantasy when you're grinding. And Ainz is wearing one too when he comes out. I think I read somewhere that when Ainz does the battle, he's trying to see how have I come so far in hand-to-hand combat, since I've been Momont.
So that thing was a handicap for him.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they really do suck.
Yes, but the one guy was able to keep up with him with all his buffs, and that's why Ainz got pissed and switched back to magic.
Oh, okay.
And then he took, man, when he takes up, no, you can't tell my level because I'm wearing this ring. Hold on. Bar.
Yeah. Oh, God, man. I felt so sad.
Or when Shaltir finally catches up to the one girl. That was awful.
Now, it's that girl's voice that the arachnid uses, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one he talks about apportioning her body parts throughout Nazarick.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the writer confirmed that her sisters she was trying to save were sold into slavery and died.
Oh, good.
Working in the mines.
Because they didn't have money.
Because of this world. And because their parents are the worst. So the parents sold them into slavery.
Right.
Okay, so let's go
on that note.
Let's go to the third arc. Actually, the second arc is probably my favorite. That was horrendous. But embracing him as a villain, I was like, okay, now I know. Now he's a villain to me, and I'm good. And I was, like I said, I was super impressed by how much I love these characters in a few episodes. And my daughter sat and watched just that arc, and she was super entertained, like it was a whole new anime. And that arc almost works as its own anime. All right,
I agree with that.
Third arc. What'd you guys think?
It was. It basically put the final nail in the coffin for this dude is evil. Because to try and find one of his buddies, I'm going to murder over 70,000 people with one spell. And then chase down the rest of them with what's left over.
Uh-huh.
But oh gosh, that writing's so good because they attach you so much more to those three hero characters. And
Gazif, Brain, and Climb.
Yeah, attaches you even harder to them. And then Gazif has to be the freaking hero, dang it. But again, shows you just how much more powerful Ainz is than the rest of the world, right? Because this is their best fighter.
So yeah. The only thing is, I don't see this as that villainous because it is war. Like,
it's not though. It's not. It's a standoff. It's essentially he's come in to say everything is mine, and these guys are like, we should just give it up. No, we have to at least do a show of force. They didn't intend to fight, right? And even though there was some. Yeah, even though there was some bandying about of words where they're like, oh, it doesn't look like there's very many of them. Maybe we should go storm their keep and take their stuff. That never would have happened. They would have backed down. And, I mean, they fled as soon as he started casting, just preparing to cast. And so it was a complete slaughter. And he had absolutely no reason to finish the spell. Nope. I mean, and the thing was, like, I
just wanted to see how many he could make.
Yeah, the thing that made this so frustrating for me is that this is an entire kingdom that he just saved from, well, himself.
Yeah.
So, like it's like he's playing on every side and he's being the bad guy and then he pretends to sweep in and be the good guy. And like at first I was able to imagine that because of that situation before was all Demiurge's machinations, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how I could justify his behavior in the second season. But in the third season, he is perfectly fine doing it again and wiping out 70,000 people unnecessarily with just a huge spell. He's not even using them as resources. He's just using them to call these temporary things that he can just banish. I mean, he even says like, oh, I could I could banish these things, but it seems like a waste. Not, like now I have 5 more things to add to my army. It's I'm just going to banish these things when I'm done with them, but I want to play with them a little bit first. So let's send them out to kill.
Never made this many before.
Yeah, God. And when he makes them applaud for him,
that I did laugh.
Oh,
Because they're just like, oh, okay.
Yay for you. It's the worst ever.
Exactly. And I'm like, all of his connections to humanity just completely disappeared. And then when he encounters Gazif and he's just like, yeah, I'm killing everything. Look at me killing everything. And then he kills Gazif. And it's just, there's nothing left for you, man.
He did try to talk Gazif out of it. He's like, Gazif, you're going to die if you do this.
Yeah, and he's like, come join me.
Right.
Like, I know I'm going to die.
Right, but like, look at everything I just did, Gazif. Don't you want to be on my side?
Yeah.
And it's a ridiculous request. He should have known.
I mean, you're right. He is a villain. I get that.
2
things I thought were super interesting in this arc, and I did like it. But I liked it for what I felt it was setting up, which is this: the chief girl from the village summons a huge army of goblins
that was cool.
From a tiny item that shouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah, Ainz is just like, what?
So that tells me that maybe the humans of this world have more power than Ainz thinks they have, or they have some kind of advantage. Like if Ainz had done that, he would have gotten a small army of goblins, but she uses it; she gets a giant army. Maybe there is an advantage to using Yggdrasil. What's the name of the game?
Yggdrasil.
Yep.
Yggdrasil.
Yeah. If the humans of this world use items from that game, maybe they get some kind of boost. Also,
I took it as something else. I took it as she fulfilled the description of the name because she became the Goblin General, right? Because she had goblins that had given her loyalty and devotion and weren't just summoned and forced into work, but they actually wanted her to be the Goblin General.
So Ainz just didn't know it could do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, it's just an object with a name in a game. It doesn't really matter what the name is, but if it's the real world and you live up to the name, maybe it unlocks its unique feature.
Okay. But the biggest thing was Ainz encountered a weapon that can kill him. And he wanted to get the weapon, and he didn't take it. And now it's in the hands of 2 people who know they have to beat Ainz. They know he has... I don't know if they know he has time stop, but they know there's something there that they need to be able to get past to get to him.
Right, because as soon as the fight started, to them, it was all of a sudden he's dead.
Right. And those 2 characters even say, Gazif died so we could see him, how he died. Like, there was a strategy to Gazif. Gazif knew he lost that fight before it even started, but he figures, if my friends watch, and now they, Ainz has even said, this weapon can kill me. Can I have it?
Yeah.
No, you can't have it. Fine. PvP with no rewards. Which, again, is odd for Ainz to do when he encounters something that's a threat to him, to let it walk away.
Well, he's obviously not that afraid of it, or, like you said, he's believing more and more into his own hype, and he's starting to get into villainous overconfidence area, and that's going to be where his downfall is.
Maybe I felt like the anime went out of its way to make sure we knew that sword was a threat to him, and make sure we knew where that sword landed. Definite
foreshadowing. I agree.
Right.
There's also other possibilities of things that could come in to take them out. One is the Slain Theocracy's girl, that girl with the white and black hair.
Right.
I guess she's called a dragon princess. I read that in a comment somewhere, and we remember that in the beginning of season 2, they said she was stronger than Shaltir. She could beat Shaltir.
Right.
So if she could beat Shaltir, she could beat him. Unless he can find some way to resist her. But there's also something that occurred to me was the, how there's all this talk about the 20 evil gods that showed up and the 13 heroes that vanquished them.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know how long ago that was, and we don't know if the 13 heroes still exist. And I'm kind of wondering if this area that they're in and the kingdoms that he's running into just doesn't have the 13 heroes anymore. Like maybe they settled somewhere else or something. But I really wonder, because they keep throwing that out there. I wonder if there's going to be something about those characters coming back.
I thought I read something about a group of players showed up They actually took over the world, and then due to infighting, lost it. But the whole reason that all the other races haven't taken over the human races is because of that. They overraised the human population, and so that's why humans are the dominant, even though they are the weakest of the races, because these players came in and made such a big sweeping change. But that I don't know if that means they all died or they all just gave up world domination or something, but
Well, I did really like and enjoy how this season arc and episodes ended with basically him playing two characters at once to get peaceful buy-off from the kingdom as he took it over.
Yeah, using Momont the hero to be like, oh, I'll totally be a good guy and rule over this stuff so your evil won't.
To me, it smelled a little bit of like when you have a concentration camp and you have the people that are in it be governed by their own people.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is, what he's setting up. It will work. It's worked in the past in the real world.
Do you guys think the chief girl is suspicious of Ainz, of his true intentions? I feel like she kept noticing odd things.
Are you talking about the one from the town?
Yeah, the
Emery?
Emery. It just seemed like she kept noticing, like, it's odd that this is happening this way and stuff. And I felt like she might be a little suspicious that Ainz, especially that the one girl came in and saved her boyfriend, even though the entire village was being attacked.
I never saw that. I didn't notice it.
Yeah, I don't know if they're in the forefront of her mind. I could see it, but she was awfully loyal right before she blew the second horn. Like she was on board with making sure Ainz was happy and Ainz's plans were going to be furthered, right? And also, what?
I'm just wondering if there's an inkling there that might lead to something, because I'm just wondering where the village arc goes and how it ties into. I'm going to assume the fall of Ainz is an end game of this, but maybe not.
They haven't heard. Well, at least to our knowledge, they haven't gotten word that Irantel has been captured, basically, by Ainz. Okay. So just real quick. Speaking of capturing a kingdom, I loved how the twins like landed with a dragon. They're like, "Yeah, hey, we're taking over, and just to prove it, here goes a bunch of your guys." And the ground opens up,
and they wanted to kill the rest of them too, but they didn't know where the prince was or the emperor, and so they're like, "Well, I guess we won't then. Don't want to risk killing him." Oh. So evil. So much evil in this anime.
No, but I think we kind of skipped the political intrigue, but I think we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But that whole interaction with the kingdom was pretty great. I did love how he's just like, well, we could do this, we could do that, we do that, and then he summons those monsters. He's like, we can't do anything.
Yeah. Well, because the whole point of the war was like, I'm going to show the other side how strong this guy is, and we can team up behind his back. And then now it's like, oh, we just can't do anything. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We're friends, right? Friends.
All right.
You had to wonder after being the bloody emperor and going through everything he went through just to be where he is now. He has to wonder, what luck? like what luck? Everything's finally starting to calm down. I'm starting to get control of everything, and then this jerk shows up.
He was actually a character that surprised me how evil he was. Also, the lieutenant or right hand man of the king who you think is kind of like a greedy jerk, and then he goes home and he's with his son.
Yeah,
I love that character too. Let's do quick scores and then we'll wrap up. Jeremy, what's your score for this season?
I give it a 4. I still enjoyed it. I'm having a really hard time because I can't find anybody that I really want to root for, and
his name is Klein. He's a shiny boy.
Yeah, he's such a tiny little thing though.
Actually,
it's a 4.
Okay.
That was pretty great when he goes, yeah, I wanted to change my color, but the princess told me I needed to be shiny so I could stick out for my notoriety.
Dead so bad.
I know. No. She doesn't want him dead. She wants him mortally wounded.
Yes.
So she can take care of him forever.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, Jason, score.
Definitely a 4. I'm loving hating Ainz.
Exactly what Jason just said. That's for me. 100%. Okay, we are currently watching the anime movie on Netflix, Blam. It's spelled as blame, explanation point. That is what we are watching. If you have thoughts on Overlord Season 3, I hope you do, because we could definitely use in some filling in the blanks and extra stuff. You can reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast or email theanimebakaclub@gmail.com. Or leave us a comment wherever you found this podcast. We will definitely be listening. Okay, after that, we will see you guys in the... Well, we're filming this before Christmas, so should be the next year before we all start talking again.
Alrighty.
For us.
Right. Happy New Year.
Have a good week.
Sayonara.